So today we will discuss about the documenting test cases. So the test cases need to be documented as they will be repeatedly used in your regression testing. Hope you know what is regression testing. Okay. So as and when you change something in your software, you need to check or the related functionalities or the surrounding functionalities which are not impacted. So that can be done using the test cases. So you can refer to those test cases. So you have to maintain or document the test cases. So basically, your each test case it should have some description or some titles. Okay, so what are the things your test cases should have? So your test cases should contain a test case id. It should contain the case description. So say suppose test case id is, it should be unique again, something like this: tc underscore 123. Then test case description, like what is the description of that particular test case. Then you have to have principle used in the test case design technique. That means have you used boundary value analysis, use case scenario, equivalence partitioning, etc. Then you should have the revision history. Revision history in the sense when it was first created, when it was modified, the last modified date. These all things have to be captured. Author name, which is important. So who has written the test case, which tester has written the test case. Then it should have the functionality to be tested, a small description of the functionality. Then it should have the test basis in the sense from which work product you have taken into consideration or you have referred to write that particular test case. Okay, then you have the environment in which the test case has to be executed. That means which hardware, operating system, which browser, these all things have to be captured. Then you have the test setup, basic setup what is needed for your testing. Then you should have the preconditions. Preconditions means the status of the software before giving any test input. What is its status? Then post condition, that means expected status of the software after executing the test input, including any error messages. Next, your test case it should also have the test procedure. After that, it should have the expected result and pass fail criteria. So any changes you that has to be made to your test case design document, it must be done only through a procedure defined in your configuration management plan. So that we'll study later. Okay. So once you have documented the test cases, your test cases is ready, and say suppose you got your software for testing, then what you do? You execute the test case, right? So to execute the test case, the exact procedure has to be worked out. So in case of your GUI testing, so it may be just some mouse clicks and the keyboard entries. So in some cases, the exact procedure for interconnecting the modules, the test data, it has to be entered and it need to be indicated in the test case design document. So based on the test procedure, your test case is executed. So the actual results are compared with your expected result. So, what you do basically when you get the software, you open your test case for that particular functionality, and whatever is mentioned in the steps, you execute similarly. So once you have done, you have carried out all the test steps, you will get some output, right? So that output you have to compare it with the expected results which are there in your test cases. So based on the pass fail criteria, you will say that whether the test step has passed or failed. Okay, so if you are using testing tools, then the execution of the test cases would be quite easy. So you need to record the test case by actually executing the test case manually. The tool will automatically generate the test script. So the test script can then be executed for executing the test case. So this tool will be useful in your regression testing. So when you have same set of or the same test case has to be repeatedly tested, so that time your tool becomes useful. So the same thing we are doing in our lab, right? We are using the selenium id to manually record everything, and once the tool generates the script, we repeatedly execute it. It is the same thing here. Okay, so apart from your pass fail information, the tools also give you important information whether how much time the particular test case has taken for the execution, so that you can so you can have the total time which is required for the execution of your entire test cases. Apart from that, your tools are also helpful in capturing the screenshots for the defects and maintaining a report. So next we will talk about generating incident report or anomaly report. So any incident that needs to be probed into future or further is reported by using an incident report. So that report is also called as anomaly report. Okay. So when you execute a test case, if the expected result and the actual result, if they do not match, then it is an incident that needs to be investigated into it. So that the incident, when you investigate into the incident, you can resolve that. So to have or to know the details of the that particular incident, you have to maintain a incident report. Fine. Your incident, it may or may not be a defect. Okay, there is a difference between incident and a defect. So this incident report, whenever you have it, it also helps in your desk checking of your various work products such as your SRS, test plan, etc. So what would be the content of your incident report? So it should have the date on which the incident or the anomaly was discovered. So it should capture the date, then it should capture the person who has identified that particular incident or the organization which has identified the incident. Then it should also maintain the or it should also have the development phase in which the incident was observed, whether it was in the requirement analysis, whether it was in the coding phase or it was in the testing phase. So it has to be mentioned. Then description of the anomaly, you have to have the description of the anomaly, what how it happened, if that is there, what is the thing it is causing. So all these things it has to mention. Then the work product or the test case that revealed the problem, so it has to be there. The expected result, actual result, it should be present in your incident report. Again, the priority and the severity of the anomaly or the incident should be there. The priority is to be assigned to, so that your anomaly or the incident can be fixed. The present status of that particular incident, like is it in a fixing state or it is under rectification or it is kept for future. So all those things, the status, present status has to be maintained. The change history, when was the status change from fixed to something, so that has to be mentioned. And the last one it should contain is the date of rectification and the closure, when the particular incident was closed. Fine. So these things should be there in your incident report. So the next thing we'll see is how to log the defects. So for every project, a defect log has to be maintained. So it can be maintained using a defect tracking tool, or it can be as simple as your in Excel. The defect log is different from the collection of your incident reports. A defect may cause multiple incident reports. You have to understand your incident may or may not be a defect. Okay. So each defect, when it is entered into a defect log by a person who has discovered it. So whenever the tester, if it is a testing phase, if the tester has discovered some defect, he has to describe or he has to keep a log of the defect which he has found out. This thing has to be done by the entire testing team. Okay, so they have to write about the defect which they have found out, like the date when they found out, what is the description, what are the steps they carried out so that the defect was observed, in which environment that defect was observed. So these things have to be captured along with your screenshot or a video of that particular defect, so that as a tester you are proving that the defect has actually occurred. Now after that it is the developer's call, like whether it is actually a defect or what it is. Okay, so these things has to be done by a tester. So once that is done, the test manager, he'll study the defect whatever the tester has entered, then he'll assign the severity and the priority for that particular defect. Priority can be high if suppose you have found out a defect and you cannot proceed for the testing of the software, then the priority can be high. So if the priority is high, then what is the severity, what is causing, or if that defect is that defect has occurred, then how it is impacting your system. So that becomes the severity of the defect. Then after that, once severity and priority has been assigned, the next step is to assign the developer. So whose code has caused that particular defect, that particular developer, he has to fix the defect. And once the defect is fixed from his end, it is now the tester's duty to again, take back the defect, and he has to check whether actually the developer has fixed the defect or not. So in the logging of the defects, it is the duty of the tester or any other person, according to their work products or in which phase they are maintaining a log wherein they are capturing all the defects, the information, the description of the defects. Okay, the next thing is the test documentation standards. So every test engineer, he has to document his or her work, right? A number of documents need to be generated. So the documents such as your test design document, test case, incident report, log report, and the completion report. These all things have to be, maintained by a tester. Like it implies that he has done this much work, right? Again, how he has to maintain or how she has to maintain the documents is like normal, something like that. They cannot write anything in these particular documents, so it has to be according to some standard formats. So some standard formats are your IEEE 829-1998. It says how to maintain, or it is the standard for your test documentation. Then IEEE 1028-1997, it says the standard for the software reviews. Then IEEE 1044-1993, it says it is the standard for classification of the software anomalies. Then the last one, it is the guide to classification of your software anomalies. Okay, so according to these guidelines only, the tester, they have to maintain their work. Then the next one we study is the formal methods of testing. So how well we test our software, it depends on the quality or how we have designed the test cases. So define to deliver the quality software, we need to follow the process which we have discussed. Okay, that is, you have to identify the test objectives, then you have to have the test specification, test design, then you have to design the test case, you have to execute, you have to then compare the results with the expected output. If there is any defect, you have to log it. So these all things have to be done. So so for all these years, the researchers, they have been trying to find out whether whatever the process for the testing is there, whether it can be automated. So proving that the software works correctly, it involves two things. Okay, the first one is to prove that the program has no errors, then to prove that the program is a true representation of the user requirement. That means any program that is written by using a programming language, it can be converted into a finite state machine. So that means your program changes its state from one state to another state at any point of time, right? So suppose we can develop a tool that converts the program into its equivalent state transition diagram, and it checks for its correctness. So if all the states are correctly defined and how the program moves from one state to other state, even if it is defined properly, then we can prove that the program is correct. So if some states are not defined, or say some program, whenever your program moves from one state to another state, that particular state is not defined, then your program will have errors. So such a tool that checks the correctness of your program, it is yet to be developed. So even if suppose that tool is made available, so we have to ensure that the program is a true representation of the user requirements. So how do we represent the user requirements? So if we use basically the natural language, suppose English, to describe our requirements, then there will be lot of vagueness there. So we need to use some formal methods to represent the user requirements, such as your UML, so or the data flow diagrams. But we are unable to achieve 100% success in representing all the requirements using your formal methods. So if and when we achieve it, suppose we integrate that tool with the tool that checks with the correctness of the program, then the entire software testing can be, the process can be automated. Again, it is not yet been developed. So until that tool is being developed, we have to follow all these things which we have discussed. So that means your software testing, it continues to be a, it is a art, it is a science, it is a bit of engineering and a technology. So this is about your dynamic testing, the different types of dynamic testing, then how we have to design the test cases based on different techniques. We had seen multiple categories in that, how to document and execute test cases. So yeah, this completes your fourth chapter.